What is going on, you guys? It is Wednesday morning, and there's the man himself. Exactly. Well, wanted to get on here live, share with you guys just how incredible the new brush is going to be. It's launching this weekend, right?
It is.
Next weekend. Next weekend, sorry. So, have that going on. Wanted to be able to show you guys how you can take advantage of it. I'm going to be using it with this powder right here, Frosted Pink. It is the fastest powder inside the line. So, wanted to be able to show you guys how you can take full advantage of the brush. That way, when you get it, you know what to expect. So let's go ahead and set this up so that I have a perfect view. No, I'm on Instagram.
Oh, you're IG Live?
I'm on IG Live, Youngnails. All right, so I'm going to set this up so that you guys can see. So what I want to be able to do is, let me just go ahead and get in tight. I want to be able to use my electric file to come in and just gently remove the shine. So you're going to notice again with a very gentle motion how I feather away the shine from corner to corner. This will allow me to get around the perimeter of the nail quite fast without, again, having to use a lot of pressure. Once I've done that, then what I'm going to be able to do is come in with some swipe, and then I'm going to use this to remove shine from the surface of the nail. So the technique I'm going to use is going to allow you to build the shape of the nail quite fast in one pearl. I find that when you're going to be shaping an active length nail, it's sometimes a lot easier to work from the cuticle area and just build it out onto the form. That way you guys don't have to build it in stages. We had a group that just came through OWC, and they had an incredible amount of success when they're working from the cuticle area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the form off. I'm going to place it underneath. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pre-pinch the form just like this, giving you bird's eye view. And then you're going to notice that when I come through, I hold the form here, which will allow me to get underneath. And I want to make sure that it's touching, again, the center. When you're working with these hands, it makes it easy to hold it. You notice that I don't get it all the way to the back corner. It's not necessary. As long as I'm having it nice and tight through there, that's all I want. So the shape of the nail that I'm going to be working with is going to be almost a tapered square. What I like to do, and you'll notice, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. I'm working with Frosted Pink, so for me to be able to get a really big pearl, what I want to be able to do, again, I'm using a larger brush. This is going to be the Signature Series. You're going to notice that when I come in with a lot of liquid, I barely touch, and this is going to allow me to bounce into the surface so that I get a really, really nice pearl on one side of my brush. I need it like that so that when I release it to the back of the cuticle, it pops right off of the nail, okay, or actually right off of the brush and onto the nail. I don't want it to be too dry. I don't like to drag through. If you're dragging through the surface, it ends up becoming really, really flat. So, what I want to be able to do, again, is I want to be able to set it down, and as the product starts to run this way, you're going to notice that it's going to run down to the sides. What I want to be able to do is use the body of the brush, more like the sides of the brush, to balance it back into shape. Okay, so I'm going to get a good angle on this so that you guys can see what we're going to be doing. First, you're going to notice that Let me just get in tight. Hopefully you guys can all see this. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with a larger pearl, and I need something large enough, again, so that when I set it to the cuticle area, it literally comes right off. And then with this really, really wet pearl, it's going to allow me to tuck the cuticle in tight. So you'll notice by holding the finger down, everything starts to run towards the tip of the nail. Once I get it here, what I'll be able to do is use the body of the brush to kind of stretch it into the shape that I want. Okay, so at this point, you'll notice that I'm using the body to kind of compress it down, and then once I've compressed it down enough, I could start to brush it forward. Even if I brush it too far forward, it's not a problem because I could use the side. So you could see how quickly, right, I'm actually able to get the body into a nice shape, right? Look at this. Really, really nice shape. Tight sidewalls all the way through. A nice, even, again, tapered square nail, right? And again, I'm not really concerned about whether or not it's going to be, say, the right upper arch. Like if you're looking at the side profile, I think it's thick enough. If I needed any volume to this product, I don't have to worry about going around here. I could worry about just taking a really, really small pearl. Again, right, you'll notice that if I set it down this way, it leaves a lot of the excess down below. This color is beautiful because it looks like a pink natural. It's a very opaque product. This was one of the very, very first cover powders that we ever brought to market. For those of you guys who have this and you've never worked with it, again, beautiful set time, super, super fast, incredible adhesion. It really makes a huge difference, again, when you're working with something like this. Okay, so I'm going to set this to the side, and I want to be able to share with you guys some really cool things. Again, this is Frosted Pink, okay? Frosted Pink, a really pretty combination that you're going to be able to work with. Let me just go ahead and open my drawer. I have a ton of stuff inside here. So this is French Pink. And I want to be able to show you guys this powder. So this powder, as you guys can see, once it picks up... Oops, wait a minute. This is not the right powder. Is there French Pink over there, Tracy? That's cover. Can you check? I want to be up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it, shake it, right? You just go ahead and shake this really, 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 really fast. Yeah, we have a lot of educators. And is the French core or speed? It's core. It's core product. But again, I want to be able to share something. Okay, so look, this, I just want to show you guys, this is actually starting to set. I did this in around 4 minutes. Around 4 minutes, I can remove the form, and I still have a little, look at that, I still have a lot of flexibility where I'm actually going to be able to pinch the C-curve in. It's about the 4 minute mark, okay? This color here, this is what I want to be able to show you once it's mixed, but this is a combination between both of these colors. And you guys are going to notice that it has a little bit, right, so these two colors, and then so when you actually put them together, it's beautiful. Like, this plus this equals this. It's sick. This hides everything as well. It's a beautiful color to make when you're doing full color application. It's a beautiful color to use when you're doing just one color application. It's beautiful when you're doing two-tone. There's a lot of basically flexibility that you have when you're working with that. And again, these two color combinations, they hold up extremely well. Okay, so One thing you guys can practice when you're working, especially for the beginners, again, let me just share with you something that will help tremendously before we actually file this into shape. So one of the things what I teach is good consistency, and good consistency is learning to work with a lot of liquid. So having a brush that's this big, you're going to notice that I don't have to pull a lot of it off. All I have to do is just tap it. You'll notice on the surface that I'm not dragging, but I do have to get it a little bit deep so that the body picks it up. And then you're going to notice that when I set it down, I don't immediately drain my brush. Take a look how I touch the cuticle. And then what I like to do is I like to get the product to start moving this way. This will allow me to, again, if I have to touch, I don't really have to do that much work. This is the mix that I made. You see how there's a little bit of space right there? If I pull through that area, it ends up becoming nice and tight. But you'll notice how I'm actually able to get the product to run from this point to this point in the least amount of time. That's the key to a lot of really successful design, is trusting the run, trusting the flow from this point to this point. A lot of people, what they end up doing is they make the mistake, and I'll show you. A lot of beginners, when you're starting, the problem that you run into is that when you submerge your brush, you'll pull off way too much monomer, especially if you're going for a big overlay. And what you'll do is you'll rest the tip of the brush in the powder, hoping that it's going to pick up a lot. And then what ends up happening is that you end up picking it up really dry. You see that? So that when you go to the nail, you see how stiff. And then you wipe your brush. So at this point, look at this. It's like I'm trying to push clay. This is a very, very bad consistency that you do not want to work with. Let me just pick this off. You want the product to flow. It needs to flow from here to here in the least amount of effort. And how you accomplish that is again by taking the tip of your brush, barely touching, and then you'll notice that with the body of my brush, if I have to pull down deep. I pull down deep. I don't just rest it in the surface. I pull down deep and I allow the brush to bounce. It absorbs fast, and then when I set it down and I release liquid into the surface, take a look at how well I'm actually able to get the product to flow. I don't even have to do anything. At this point, if I barely touch the surface, I'm going to be able to guide it into place, right? Guide it into place, again, without having to do that much work at all. And then again, like for those of you who struggle with this, you have to remember that in order for you to get better, it really takes a lot of practice, again, here, and you'll notice, I'll show you, like if you look at the body, this is, again, for those of you who have troubles, take a look at the side. So you'll notice if I just hold it in the surface like this, and I'm hoping that it's going to pick it up. The problem is that the tip of the brush is only going to give you that much. You could see how dry it is. If I take the same amount of liquid and I bounce, so take a look at the side profile, sorry. If I take this side profile, look at this, and I'm bouncing like this. You see this? I'm actually bouncing. You could see how much more I'm able to grip. And you'll notice that I'm actually using more surface area of the brush instead of just the very, very front. It's really, really important. Okay? And again, it doesn't matter what you work with. If I'm working with this blend, which is a facet, and here, look, I'll show you something. This is French pink, and for those of you, sorry, I mixed the jars. For those of you who were asking, because I saw a lady that was asking earlier, she said, hey, I noticed that it's a core powder. Is that going to make a difference? Look, I mean, even if I took a core powder, okay, and I get a lot of liquid, and I'm actually able to pick up a really, really nice bead. Watch this. If I hold it here for a couple of seconds before I actually set this down, right, you're going to notice that I'm getting a very, very, look at this, I'm getting a very slow, controlled movement. I'm not getting a really runny surface. I'm actually able to balance it all the way through the body of the nail. This is really, really important while you work. And it didn't matter if I worked with speed. I want to be able to have that same control from this point to this point. It matters all the difference, especially if you're doing smile line. If I was doing a deep smile line and I got it to this point, you'll notice that I could take the body of the brush and I could start to contour, right? I could start to contour down towards the edge to be able to build it perfect. It doesn't have to be rock perfect, because you could always take a hand file and go around the edge. Anyways, that's what it comes down to. Now let's get into filing, okay? Control. So for those of you guys who are coming out to OWC next month, this is what we'll be working a lot on. Your success to all the shapes of nails you do has everything to do with, again, being able to control. Oh, another thing is, when you're finished working with acrylic, you can't just set your brush off to the side and hope that it's going to be, because you can even see this right here, there's a little bit from all of it, it's a little stiff on the end. What I like to do is, and you'll notice that my towels that I have, I'll take this top towel, I'll fold it over, okay? And then what I like to do is I'll get it into a quarter, just like this. Then what I'll do is I'll take my liquid and I'll run it. You see this, how I'll run it in my monomer, but I'm actually, if there is any residue that's inside my brush, I'm going to have to try to pull it out physically. You don't want to just soak it. And then what I'll do is I'll start to work it and condition it back to that really, really tight point. So that's really important after you're done, is don't just leave your brush sitting at the side. You have to be able to, again, work it off. And then that way, you're always going to have it soft. For those of you guys who are in the UK, get a hold of Youngnails. Get a hold of Youngnails UK. They can get you guys an estimate on what the brush is going to cost. All right, so filing this into shape, what you're going to notice after I take the edges of my file down is I have 5 points of filing, and you'll notice that if I'm working with a nail that, again, I'm trying to replicate something, right? So 5 points, point 1, point 2, point 3, the first 3, right? I have to make sure that my side walls are going to be nice and straight. I have to make sure that my front end is going to be straight. And I do that by lining up my file, again, to the side. So this is tapered. Again, it's tapering in. I still have to keep connection so that when I file up and through, you can see how I build a really straight line. You see that? My file's connected to the whole entire side. It sells. Am I selling a larger size of protein bond? No, we can't, unfortunately, because it acts differently when it's in that size of a bottle. We'll be basically replacing too many bottles that freeze. Okay, so here on the same thing, you're going to notice if I keep contact all the way from my side as I file all the way up, right? You can see the dust line runs completely straight all the way up to the top. It's really important. And then here in the front, I could taper the front end, which I usually like to do. So that this is 3 points right here, right? So 1, 2, 3. Now, what I'm going to do is take a look at the side. Oops. Just whack your finger off. Take a look at the side profile. I want to be able to show you guys how my lower arch hangs down. If I line my file at the lowest point parallel to the finger and I file up, what will end up happening as soon as the file meets my corner, right? take a look at how straight it ends up becoming. Look at this. All right, so I line my file. Look at that. See how straight it ends up filing all the way to the side profile? It's the same thing here on this side. If I turn my hand to the side here, and you can see that a lot of the excess is hanging off the bottom. If I line it here, then I keep my file straight, and I file up and in, then what will end up happening is I'll end up building a really, really straight lower arch. Take a look at this. That's what I want to be able to accomplish. See that? Build it really, really straight. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Okay. Every time I file, clients get cut. If you're filing your clients without taking down your edges, you have to take your edges down. This is important right here, because no matter, look at this, I can saw my skin and nothing is going to happen at all. If you're not doing that, you will cut your clients. You have to make sure that you take your edges of your file down really dull before you start to file that into shape. Okay? All right, so once we have removed all the excess on the sides, once we've shaped it, then what we can do you have odorless monomer? No. We have odorless gel. Odorless monomer does not work well. All right, so you're going to notice here on the side profile, look, I don't really have that much to file. It's a little bit thick in the back end. Watch this. I don't really have to do that much filing to get my shape tight. And then here in the front, a little bit, that's it. So remember, this was built out with one. You can see the shape. I don't have to do that much. If I'm looking down the barrel of the nail, you can see a lot of the thickness. Let me just go ahead and straighten this out right here, right? Take a look at that. You see how straight the sides are? I want it completely round. So you're going to notice that if I'm working down one direction all the way through, take a look at how this side rounds out. You see that? I need to make this side the same. So the thickness that you see right through the middle of my fingers, you see that thickness right through there? In order to get that tight, you're going to pull in one direction, towards yourself. And you can see as it rounds out, look at that. That's how you're going to get it nice and even from side to side. Okay, so I'm going to go around the cuticle area. Again, gentle, I don't need to be aggressive. I'm going to go all the way around, all the way through. And then once I have a majority of the excess removed, then we could use our hand file to go into shape. Okay? Don't need to over-file it, right? It helps when, and again, you'll notice at this point, once I have it into this, then I take my hand file and I run it. You'll notice how I hold my file, tickle down this way, this, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Same thing on this side, right? I'm working in one direction to get my cuticle areas tight. Don't have you'll notice that if I get towards the back end, right, and I'm working on this, but it's the same thing as though I was working on Tracy's, right? You'll notice the shape, right? You can see how I'm starting to shape it all the way through. Look how straight the nail is on all levels. And you'll notice here, right, let's go to client profile. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this so that you guys can see. Thank you for this, because I was confused on how much to file down and what I'm looking for when I file. So how about the apex? Dude, it's perfect. Look at this. This thing is sick. Look at this. It's well balanced because it's right here. So the extension is all the way here, but with the pressure that I have here, it's not going to be, I want this to look as natural as possible. I don't want it to look big and bulky. You're going to notice that at this point, what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to just get it nice and even from side to side. And if I'm looking down the client profile, which is that profile right here, then I can balance, right? I can balance it. I can balance my file on the surface, right? I can just hold it, and then I can work it from side to side so that it ends up becoming perfectly even. So well balanced. I don't really have to do that much fine, but look, this is frosted pink. Do you see how beautiful this color is? This is on the nail, but take a look. If I wipe the surface, frosted pink, it almost looks like a natural ombre on the surface of the natural nail. So is the stress point automatically at the right spot by floating it down with one pearl? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's flat. You'll notice, like, if I took, let me take this off and I'll show you guys again. I want to be able to make this as easy to understand as possible, and the only way for you to be able to do that is you have to trust the process. So, like, let's just say I'm working here, okay, and like this is the side profile. This is the side profile of the nail. And you're going to know, like, let's say that this is the natural nail, okay? And let's say that you do one pearl and you build this shell, and it's literally like this. It's thin, right? It's too thin. Like, I don't have an upper arch. I have to add more right through this area here in order for me, right, to have the support. But when you're doing it in one pearl, you're not concerned about this. What you're concerned about, especially on the nail that you build, is making sure the acrylic is going to be super tight all the way around the perimeter of the nail, here and here, so that you don't have lifting. You could always add the stress area after you build it out. I find that a lot of beginners, what happens is that the stress is way too focused on building it, trying to get the arch. Don't worry about that right now. Worry about creating a shell, and then you can go back. This is going to improve the quality of speed. You'll notice that in a lot of demos that I build the tip first, and then after I establish the tip, I set it down. Let me explain something to you. Watch this. If I took a form, okay, and I go ahead and put this on, I'm just going pure sculpting. Forget the prep for 2 seconds, okay? This is based on pure sculpting method, okay? So you're going to notice that I'm going to show you from the side profile, okay? So let's take a cover powder, and let me show you. Like, I'm gonna set it down here, and I'm gonna get it to run, and then I'm gonna show you from this point to this point. Right? So if I pick up a pearl really, really wet, okay? Oops, a little bit too much liquid, sorry. If I pick up a pearl really wet and I bounce into the surface to get a really, really nice bead, and I set it to the cuticle area here. Watch this. If I press, look at this. I'm really focusing my energy on getting all the way around the edge of the nail. I'm going to show you something. Okay, watch. I'm just going to bring this up. Take a look at the side profile. How thick. You see that? So what I want to be able to show you is it's almost like a ramp, right? Let me just go ahead. You see that? Look at this. If I brush it, do you see how tight it becomes right there? But do you see how it naturally becomes a ramp? Right, so look at this. If I was to push this forward, the level of thickness that you're actually creating through the center as the product is running this way, it's immense. It is immense. That's what you want to be able to do because, again, when you're applying it in one, I find that a lot of beginners, they make the mistake of doing this. Let me just take this off. They do this. And everybody is guilty of it. I was guilty of it when I first started. And so what I mean is that you don't hold the finger. You're not holding the finger down. Like, this is the angle. I'm holding my finger down at this angle. I'm not holding it flat like this. I'm holding it like this. If you hold the nail flat like this, watch what happens. Right? I get my pearl, I don't wait, I set it down, and then I go like this and like this. Everything starts running this way. Look at that way. I don't want it to run this way. That's a problem. That's not going to work. Then at this point, you start to panic, and then you don't know what to do. If you hold the hand in a fashion where the finger is pointed down, the only thing you have to do is you have to control it from running onto the skin, and how you do that is by using the body to bring it up, right? So look at this. Let me just go ahead and switch it out. I'm definitely be watching my nails like this so I can kindly get funny. You'll notice, right, that if I take a pearl, a big enough pearl, and I'm keeping the finger pointed down, watch this. If I set it here, and then I use the tip of my brush to get tight around the cuticle area, you'll notice as it starts bulging out, I can bring it down and bring it in, right? Bring it in. So at this point, like all the thickness is in the front, what I could do is I could start using the body of my brush to just kind of stretch it into place. All the thickness that I have, watch this. Bring it tight, stretch it. Bring it in, stretch it. And then as I start to stretch it forward, I start to get length. How long do you want it? Depends on how much product you actually have. But you're going to notice that I'm actually able to stretch this out to a considerable length in one. I'm not really concerned about whether the nail is going to be the right upper arch. I'm really concerned about it being tight. I'm really concerned about it being super tight around the cuticle areas. See how flat it is right there? I have great arch here. This is fine. Where I don't have enough product is right here. So what I do is I set my brush backwards, and then I brush that up, and then I keep basically the brush running down towards the stress area, and then basically as it starts to dry, then I can actually start to brush it forward to fill in the space. This is a lot easier to build the right thickness through the body of the nail. As you can see how I can crush it with just 2 pearls. I don't have to do more than that. Look at that. See all that thickness, or that basically all that empty space right here has been literally cut in half. How do you know how big of a bead to use? Well, look, if I'm going with large and I need to cover a large space, like you'll notice, again, from the experience, it's just experience, right? If I have my brush, and I explain this to the students of mine, let me get a little bit more liquid. I'll show you. So if I take my brush and I hold it up to my dish, you'll notice that I can pour it inside my dish without ever spilling. Okay, so how do we get a big pearl? Well, I have a large brush, And you're going to notice that I barely touch. And what I'm going to do is bounce, 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 bounce. I'm going to be able to get a monster. Look at this. I'm getting a pearl almost the size of my thumb. Okay? If I needed to go, and again, right? Watch this. A lot of liquid. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Same size. A lot of liquid. A lot of liquid. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same size. Lot. If I need to go for half the size, same amount of, almost I take a little bit out and I'm like 1, 2. 1, 2. Look at the size of that pearl. Same thing, right? 1, 2. 2 bounces. Same size pearl. It doesn't matter if I'm using a number 8. Look at this. If I'm using a number 8, the only difference is I'm not going to take a lot of the liquid out. I'm barely going to touch it. That way, when I bounce 4 times, I'm still able to get, look at that, the same size pearl as I was able to get with number 12. If I'm filling space through the middle, where I only need acrylic to be literally from this point to this point, then I don't need a bead that's monster. I need a 1, 2. I need a 2 count bead. 2 count bead to fill space. This is really important. And then as, again, you build your skills and you learn the right, like, look, if I was going to, and I'll just show you right here, if you're looking here, and I needed only a bead, literally to be like right here, right? I only needed a bead to fill that middle area right here. Again, I need a 1 to 2 count bead. So if I take my brush and I go 1, 2, it's a 2 count bead. Watch this. If I set my brush here and I blend it, look at this, how I blend it in. See that? How it fills it? Then I could use the body to walk it down side to side. And then as it starts to dry, I could literally start to brush it in so that it blends into the dry acrylic. See that? I kept it like within that area. You'll notice that it's going to stay. You can see the line, but you'll notice how I was able to keep it within that point. So it's almost like a little 2 counter. Little 2 counter. That's it. All right. I think I've been live for quite a while. I hope this helps. In order for you guys to get better with acrylic, it doesn't matter whether it's a core or a fast set. For me, I could get core to set fast. You just have a little bit more control with the core